We have an opponent, we have a date, we have a time. Rube, the playoffs are here.
Yeah, I think once the schedule comes out, it's like it all kind of feels a little bit more real, the matchup now. And it was a fun day, just kind of watching everything fall into place. Eagles could just kind of sit back and let it play out and find out who their opponent was and when it was going to be. We knew, they were going to be on the road. So it was kind of fun watching all the pieces fall into place. And here we are going to Tampa Sunday.
Yep. This is the Eagle Eye Podcast presented by Nissan with Reuben Frank. I'm Dave Zangaro. Sunday, 1 p.m. on Fox. Eagles at Tampa Bay. Eagles, the 7th seed. Tampa Bay, the 2 seed. Rube, you're right. It was fun on Sunday watching the games, knowing exactly what had to happen in what order to figure out who in the heck the Eagles are going to play. Tampa Bay was always the most likely matchup, and that's the way it ended up being. So let's kind of go through this a little bit. We went through it last week on the podcast, and you said Tampa Bay was the one team you thought was the toughest matchup. I thought it was Dallas. Here we are. They're going to play Tampa Bay. They're going to play Tom Brady. Still think it's the toughest matchup?
I do. And just because of what you said, Tom Brady. And, I do think Dallas has probably a better overall roster right now. You can even make that case for the Rams, but he's the greatest football player who ever lived. He's like, you're going, it took a perfect game in 2017 to beat him. This is a different team. This team is not where that 2017 team was. Obviously, everything's different. That was the Patriots. This is the Bucs. That was a Super Bowl. This is a wild card game. But I just think he's too good right now. I thought he was done his last year in New England. I don't say done, but he was showing signs of mortality. He looked like he was coming down to earth a little bit in 2019. And he goes to Tampa, wins another Super Bowl. And this year, he's thrown for 5,000 yards, 41 touchdowns. He's better than ever, and he's 44. And nobody stopped him yet. The Saints did. But I just don't know how you slow him down. And I don't know if this defense, and I think the big question is how much has it improved since the first Tampa game when Tom and that offense pretty much did everything they wanted against the Eagles. I think they're better. How much better? I don't think they've improved to the point where they can hold Tom Brady under, say, 30 points. I just don't think they have. So
they did the last time.
Yeah, they did the last time. That wasn't a playoff game. The Bucs built up a big lead in that game, and they ended up winning. I think they were up 28-7 at one point.
Yeah, that's the thing. If we look back at that game, the final score, you look at it, it was 28-22, and you think, oh, the Eagles played them tough. They didn't. It was kind of at the end of the game, the Eagles tacked on some points to make it look better.
Yeah,
but the Bucs were. They were in control of that game the entire way through.
Yeah, they put Chris Chandler in at the end of the game, so you knew they had it locked up. But Brady is playing at such a high level now, and it's incredible because they lose Antonio Brown, they lose Godwin to an ACL. It doesn't seem to matter, he's throwing to Mike Evans and a couple of running backs, and he does it with smoke and mirrors. It doesn't matter who he's playing with. He's so good, so talented. Nobody's come close to what he's done in the postseason. He can flip that switch as well as he's played. He'll play better in the playoffs. And I don't want to sound like they have no shot because I don't believe that. I think that they're better equipped offensively, certainly than they were the first time they played in Week 6, especially if they're healthy at running back. And the O-line is intact, which, hopefully it will be. So I think they can score some points on them. I just don't think they can score enough to overcome what I think Brady is gonna do. And, I think this secondary has been better against average to below average quarterbacks, but this is a whole different story. They haven't faced anybody close to Tom Brady since. I haven't really faced an elite quarterback since Derek Carr. You're going to call him? I think he's elite. And this is. I don't think they're pressuring consistently enough to make him uncomfortable. I think he can stand back there and pick you apart. And I think that's true for just about anybody they would play right now. So I think the Eagles can play their best and give up 33 points. I just don't think they have the talent in the secondary and up front to slow Tom Brady down.
Yeah. If you look back at that first game though between these two, how much of that matters right now? I mean, because it feels like the Eagles are a very different team, at least stylistically, than that they, what was that, week 6? They're a different team. That was during the, they didn't run the ball at all. And now all they do is run the ball. So I guess that's the way you look at it. Like if they're going to be that different, then maybe they have a shot.
Yeah, I think that's really their best shot is Miles Sanders had 9 carries in that game. They were the only carries Eagles running backs had in the game. Jalen had 10. So they had 19 total carries. And a couple weeks later, it started averaging 40 total carries. So, yeah, that was the height of the, not running the ball period. But that's going to be their best chance to win if they can establish the run and kind of run it like they did during that 7-game stretch where they were, basically running for 200 yards a game. If they can do that, keep Brady off the field, run clock, move the chains, Jalen can complete some passes in there, extend some drives. And that's their best chance to win the game is to keep their offense on the field, convert third downs, protect the ball and just run it, 45 times for 220 yards. If they can do that, they'll have a chance to be in the game. And look, if their backs are healthy, if Miles is healthy and Jordan's healthy, and we saw the other day what Gainwell can do, and we'll see if he's a part of things or Scott. They have the people, they have the personnel to do it, and the O-line to do it. So that's their best hope to me.
It's funny. I'm looking at the box score from week 6. 2 of the touchdowns were scored by guys who aren't on either team anymore. Zach Ertz had a 5-yard touchdown. Antonio Brown had a 23-yarder.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of tells you how much has changed since then.
Yeah, it's true. But Tom Brady's still their quarterback, right? So, yeah, that's the one thing. The most important thing hasn't changed. I do think the Eagles are a better team, and a better team than they were back then, especially on offense. This offense is really good, and they've been, other than the one Giants game when Jalen just had some turnover issues, bad turnover issues. I mean, they've been scoring 30 points a game. So, say we want about the defense. The offense has been going up against some good defenses, and they've been productive. So I don't think it was going to get blown out down there. I don't think I think it'll be a competitive game. I think they'll leave there feeling good about where they are as a franchise and as a team. I just don't see them winning. Am I telegraphing my prediction a little bit?
That's fine.
But, I mean, there's the lack of pressure is the biggest. I mean, if you can't pressure like Jake Fromms and Garrett Gilberts and people like that, and they haven't, if you can't pressure those guys and get them off their mark and get them moving their feet and throwing off balance, if you can't do that consistently, I don't know how you're going to do that against Tom Brady. Score big with the AAA Eagles MVP membership, along with superb roadside assistance and discounts you've come to expect from AAA. Get exclusive Eagles-related perks. For details, visit AAA.com/Eagles.
Rube, so I figured we would kind of go one side and then the other. We'll start with reasons for optimism, some reasons, if we can come up with them, that the Eagles have a shot to win this game. And then we'll just tear it all down with some pessimism. But why don't you go first? One reason for optimism in this game.
Well, one reason for optimism, I would say, is they have a young quarterback who is so poised and so calm and so nonplussed by anything going around him that the moment is not going to be too big. There's no way. I mean, we've seen young quarterbacks kind of shrink at the moment of, first big playoff game. That's not going to happen with Jalen Hurts. I mean, he's shown that he's got the mental makeup, the inner strength to just go out and play loose and free and play at his best. And he's the youngest quarterback in Eagles history to get to the postseason. So that's, to be 23 and going against Tom Brady is, I mean, gosh, Tom Brady started, his first year was 2000. Jalen Hurts was born in 98? I mean, Jalen Hurts was like 3 years old when Brady won his first Super Bowl. So, a lot of young quarterbacks, that's, the moment can be too big for you. That's not going to happen with Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, I like that one. I'll flip to the other side of the ball, and it'll be a test because we haven't seen them face a top tier quarterback in a few months now. But I do think Jonathan Gannon has a better understanding of his personnel, and I think the personnel has a better understanding of Jonathan Gannon. I really feel like the defense has turned a corner. Now, obviously, they haven't faced that high level of competition in quite a while, but I still get the sense, I don't know how much better they are, but they are a better defense right now than they were a couple months ago. So I think that's a reason for optimism. I think Gannon kind of understands what he has now, and I think the players are buying into what he does. Now, it's going to be a big test because he can't let his defense sit back and just say, hey, Tom Brady, slice and dice us up and down the field like he did in October. So I think they have to find ways to pressure a little bit more. And I don't just mean pressure in terms of getting after the quarterback. I mean, your coverage has to be a little tighter, and you have to try to force him into mistakes. I know it's rare. Those mistakes are rare, but I think the first meeting showed you can't just sit back and let him pick you apart because he'll do that.
Yeah, that's a good one. I'll give you Dallas Goedert. Eagles didn't have Dallas Goedert in the first game. I think he was on the COVID list that week.
Yeah,
he didn't play
his first stint on the COVID list.
Yeah, his first of two. Ertz did play, as you alluded to. He caught 4 passes for 29 yards and a touchdown. But since the Ertz trade, Goddard has been really, really good. I mean, he's been a top 5 tight end in the NFL since that trade, and that's a dimension that the offense has, that Hurts has, that wasn't there the first time. Even when he was playing, he was averaging about 40 yards a game. And since obviously he didn't play Sunday, but since the trade, that number has increased by about 35%. So he's become a better weapon. You can just see Jalen Hurts and Dallas really on the same proverbial same page over the last few weeks. They really started right after the trade. I mean, they've had some big games together, and he really looks for Goddard. So that's another guy that the Bucs will have to defend that they didn't have to defend in the first game. That's big.
Yeah, that's definitely big. I'll give you the most obvious one. The run game. It's been their biggest strength in this stretch where they've really made this playoff push. It's probably the best course of action they have in this game. If you want to beat Brady, play keep away. Keep him off the field as much as you can. Eat the clock, have long drives. It's not going to be the most fun game if you win it like that, but a win's a win. I think that's the goal. You can't get behind, because then I think it's a certain point you have to abandon that a little bit, but that's what I would try to do in this game. Try to run. That's what got you here. Stick with it. Run the ball. Eat up clock. Keep Tom Brady on the sideline.
They're going to have to do that. I mean, I think everybody understands that if they are unable to run, they just aren't going to have a great chance to win the game.
Yeah. Do you want to skip to the other side now?
Yeah.
Pessimism. What do you got?
Well, I hate being pessimistic. I'm not a pessimistic person, but I just don't. I don't have faith in the secondary to beat a elite quarterback. They haven't done it this year. Matt Ryan at one point in his career was an elite quarterback, but he's not now. And the combination of lack of pressure, I think the Eagles finished 30th in the league in sacks, and lack of just coverage. And look, I think these guys I think Steve Nelson's played better as the year's gone along. I think, Rodney certainly played better, and he's gotten healthier since he came back, and he's played better. You see some different guys in there. Obviously, The rotation has changed. We're seeing more of Epps here and there sometimes. Slay has made some big plays. I just don't think this secondary has the talent level. And I think Gannon's getting what he can out of them. I just don't think they have the talent level to slow down Tom Brady. I just don't think this secondary, and granted, the Bucs don't have the weapons they started the season out with. They lost 2 of their top 3 guys, and those 2 aren't coming back. But I think Godwin might be more likely to come back than AB, and Godwin's got an ACL. So that said, I just don't like that matchup.
Yeah, I get it. I don't know if the secondary was the problem as much as scheme was the problem. But in any case, you're right. If they play a type of game they played earlier in the year against them, it's not going to work. I'll flip to the other side. Offensively, they have some holes. You know, you have Devontae Smith and you have Dallas Goedert. After that, you know, is Miles going to be healthy? We don't know. Quez Watkins is your only other receiver. I mean, Jalen Reagor is a negative at this point. Greg Ward doesn't play. J-Jaw is a lost cause. So do they have the skill position players to score points and keep up with the Bucs and Brady? I don't know if they do. Their best bet's to run the ball and to just try to play the clock game. But if it ends up being a game where they have to score points, I don't know if they have the weapons to do it.
Yeah, that's fair. I'll give you one more, and it's kind of a nebulous thing, but special teams, field position, special teams to me are kind of the same thing. And this is a game where, you know, their return game has not been good. They start so many drives on their own 25, their own 20. They get negative yards on a return or 3 yards. You can't play the Bucs if you're, you know, I mean, field position, you punt from your 25, Tom's going to score in 3 plays once they get the ball. I mean, you've got to play the field position game. That's where the running game comes in. But the return game, they don't get big returns, and you know, Siposs has struggled the last couple games, which goes into field position. I've always believed in the postseason, field position is so important. You know, we've seen games where the Eagles just keep starting drives like on their own 20, and against a good team, man, that's going to catch up with you. So that's a scary thing. I mean, and Elliott's been really good. So you talk about special teams. I mean, he's been terrific. But I'm concerned about special teams as a group. Plus, they could be missing Sean Bradley. He's got the shoulder issue, so that would be a big loss. So that's a big concern for me.
Yeah, at least Siposs will be down there in the warm weather. Maybe that'll help.
We'll see.
No Shanks. Yeah,
they're going to need him.
I'll give you one more, and then we can move on from the pessimism. But just a general lack of experience. They have, you know, it's a very young coaching staff. They're relying on a lot of young players, and they have veterans. It's not, I mean, they have Fletcher Cox and Jason Kelsey, but they have a lot of young players, a lot of rookies in key spots. And as unflappable as some of them appear, you know, Jalen Hurts and Devontae Smith have played in big games. You don't know. You just don't know how they're going to react to the playoffs until they get there. So that's something that we'll just have to see. And same with Nick Sirianni. I mean, I think in general, he's done a really good job this year. But there have been moments in games, we're just talking in-game management, that I haven't liked what he's done. I think he has made some errors. And you wonder about the mounting pressure in a playoff game. How's he going to handle it? Is he going to make some more mistakes? If he does, it's going to be tough. And that's the thing. That's everything we talk about is because the margin of error in a game like this is so slim. If one of these things goes wrong, they're not winning.
Yeah, they don't have a big margin of error. You get back to one optimistic thing that's kind of related to what you just said. I do think there's a tremendous amount of value to having Kelsey, Fletcher, Rodney McLeod, guys who were part of the 2017 run, guys who have Super Bowl rings. They've been through it. I think that's very calming for young players and young coaches as well. You know, there's BG still around the team. He was part of that thing. obviously, so there's a handful of guys who, I think the young players really look up to those guys who were part of the Super Bowl run, and it wasn't all that long ago. So I think there's a lot of value there.
Yeah, there aren't many of them.
No, the long snapper, Fletcher, BG,
Barnett.
Greg Ward. I'm sorry,
Barnett
was here. Yeah, Greg Ward was on the practice squad, so he was part of it.
Did you roll your eyes at Barnett?
Well, kind of, yeah.
He recovered the fumble.
Yes, he did, and started running the wrong way, but he did recover it. Yeah. Hasn't made a play since then.
Golly. All right. Tampa Bay Eagles history. How many times have they played in the playoffs?
They played 4 times, and mixed results. So the first game was 1979 down at the old Tampa Stadium. That's what it was called, Tampa Stadium. And it was actually I like stadiums like that. Just tell me what it is. Get to the point. Yeah, no logo, no sponsor, just Tampa Stadium. The Bucs won, and it was their first playoff win ever. Beat the Eagles down there in a wild card game in '79. Jaws was like 9 for 35 or something. Threw a couple touchdowns. He was like 9 for 35. Didn't have a great game. And then they didn't play again until 3 games in the Andy Reid era. They played 3 times in 4 years, and the Eagles won the first 2, blew them out both times at the Link. Both times at the Vet. Yeah, 2000 and 2001, back-to-back years. The Eagles won like 21-7 and 34-7. And then obviously the NFC Championship game in
we'll just move on from
the last game at the Vet, and we won't have to talk. We'll have to talk about Blaine Bishop and all that. But so they haven't played in the postseason since 2002. So it's been 19 years, and that was those all 3 were at the Vet. That was the last game at the Vet, I believe, right? That the NFC Championship game was not a pleasant day. I remember walking down. I didn't take the elevator after that game. I walked down just to kind of get the feel of the fans and everything. And like nobody was screaming, nobody was cursing, it was just totally silent. People were just trudging down the steps. There's like, the ramps outside or the press box go down to the field level. And I was just kind of wanted to see the reaction. And it was just totally silent. I've never seen anything like it. That was not a good day. And so that's the history. 4 games. Eagles are 2-2, and haven't played down there in 42 years in a playoff game.
Yeah, I like the stadium. I like Raymond James Stadium.
Yeah, I really do. I think I love.
You know what I don't like? I don't like those cannons. They have those cannons they shoot off, and I guarantee you, next week, I'm going to be doing a live hit from the field, and those cannons are going to go off during my live hit, and I'm going to jump about a mile in the air.
I look forward to seeing that. But yeah, it's a good stadium. It's right in the same spot the old stadium was.
Okay.
Right in the it's like right next to it. They built it and then tore that one down. But it's right downtown. It's a beautiful place. They got the pirate ship out there in the end zone. And I think that's where Penn State just played, right? They just lost their bowl game there, I believe, because our old friend Dan Gallen was there taking pictures in the pirate ship. So, good stadium, warm weather, Frenchies. They got to go to Frenchies for a grouper burger. It's if you're going to go anywhere, it's a good place to go. Hey, Nissan just made your choice for a new car, an easier one than ever, with their most exciting and fuel-efficient lineup. And the choice is all yours. Get great offers across Nissan's full line. Shop your local Nissan store today at nissanusa.com.
This is going to be a tricky segment. We'll try it.
Last time you already just kind of.
I know. Can I just do it again?
Yeah, it's up to you. You're the commissioner.
Yeah.
I'm not totally comfortable with it, but
yeah, I know people didn't like it the last time.
No, I didn't like it, but
yeah,
we're talking about the guy in Indy. I mean, the guy in Indy.
it was a rough performance on Sunday. And people think that we dislike him. It's just not true. I don't want to see him play like that. It helped the Eagles out for playoff seeding, but man, this guy, is he this bad?
I mean,
is this what he is now?
In all honesty, I did feel bad for him.
This was 2020. This was that version today.
It was. And you kind of knew it was coming. I mean, he doesn't respond well in these moments, and the Colts have some questions. I mean, that was an 11-win team last year, and they went down to 9 wins. The Eagles were a 4-win team, and they went up to 9 wins with Jalen. The contrast is pretty stark. The interception, a fumble, he lost a fumble. They had a touchdown at the end before that last drive, which just was totally meaningless. And he was 9 for 20 for 100 yards, no touchdowns, interception, lost a fumble, and just making mistakes at the worst possible moment. Didn't get a lot of help from his O-line. Was sacked 6 times. But look, that's the worst team in the NFL. They're going to have the number 1 pick. They were 2-14, and the Colts were 14.5-point favorites. Do you know the Colts had not lost a game as a 14.5-point favorite or more since Super Bowl III, when they were the Baltimore Colts and they lost to Joe Namath and the Jets 16-7 at the Orange Bowl? Something about Florida as 14-point favorites, but it was shocking to see him play that bad in a game against a 2-14 Jaguars team, a game that the Colts had to win. If that's your path to the playoffs, man, and you can't win that game. Then they got blown out.
Yeah, you're right. They made it a little closer at the end, but it
wasn't even competitive.
No, it's weird with him because it's there's no in between. It's either he makes great plays and smart decisions, or he plays this hero ball stuff and just makes awful decisions. It's shocking to me. I thought he'd have a bounce back year. I thought he'd be good in Indy. I thought Frank Reich was the right guy. And Frank,
these numbers, you look at his stats, Dave, and they're pretty good. 28 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. But you watch him play, and it's no.
And Frank, we all think quite a bit of Frank. He staked his reputation to this guy.
Yeah.
They went out and traded for him because Frank Reich wanted them to. And now the Eagles are getting a first-round pick, and the Colts aren't in the playoffs.
And the Eagles got Milton Williams, with the 3rd-round pick.
Yeah.
Yeah. In a roundabout way, but yeah. I was reading some of the stories from Indy today, and they're talking about Frank's future. They're talking about Carson's future, and and how what the dead cap would be if they cut him. It's crazy. They just traded for him, but you got to ask yourself. He's going to be 30 before next year's playoffs. He'll be 30 before he plays a playoff game. Before he gets through a playoff game, he threw 3 passes against Seattle before he got hurt, and it was a cheap shot. Completed 1 3-yard pass to Boston Scott. That remains his only career postseason completion. 3 yards to Boston Scott, and then he was out of the game. He's going to be 30. I looked this up. He's the only quarterback ever drafted with a top 10 pick to not get through a playoff game in his first 6 years.
Wow.
Period. So, I'm sorry. There's a caveat there to be a full-time starter. So there's guys who've been out of the league, but he's the only one to start. I believe it's at least 80 games in his first 6 years.
Oh, okay. And
never get through a playoff game. He's never played a playoff game. He's gonna be 30.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Just think how good he was in 17. He played at such a high level during that stretch, ending in LA.
Even if that level wasn't sustainable, to see it drop off to this is still. I never expected it. Never.
Not like this. No. Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see what happens next.
Yeah. But it ended up being good news for the Eagles. They're going to get a higher draft pick. Who would have thought early this year that the Eagles pick would end up being the worst of the bunch?
I know, it's crazy, isn't it? So yeah, and if you're not in the playoffs, you're guaranteed top 18 pick because playoff teams get the last 14 picks. So yeah, I mean the fact that Miami didn't make it and the Colts didn't make it certainly helps.
Yeah, they're locked in. I think it's 15 and 16.
So 15, 16, and 32 probably. I would think.
The last thing, a little bit of bad news.
You think it's the last thing? There's one more thing I have.
Okay. Last thing for me, at least, is Tyree Jackson. We found out he did tear his ACL. It's a tough blow. This is why they rested guys in this game. It's awful that the Eagles ended up with a guy with a season ender and the Cowboys played all these guys that were fine. But it's a shame for him. I mean, the Eagles will get by. They have Richard Rodgers and Noah to go on the practice squad. They can bring one of them up. But for Tyree Jackson, he's got a long road ahead of him now. This is such a late injury that spring's probably out of the question. And now we're looking at, how much training camp is he going to miss?
Yeah, and I remember the same thing happened in one of those Tampa Bay games, actually. It was before the Eagles played Tampa Bay in the playoffs. They finished the season, meaningless game in Tampa Bay. It was the game where A.J. Feely threw 2 fourth-quarter touchdowns to Damian Douglas. Eagles came back and won. But they played all the backups in that game, and one of them was Ike Reese, and he hurt his foot and wasn't able to play in the playoffs, our pal Ike. So he always gets prickly when people say they're playing the scrubs. He's like, I was one of those guys, and I got hurt and couldn't play in the playoffs. So I always think about that. But, he just got finished rehabbing his back. Didn't need surgery, but, I mean, that was a pretty significant injury. It cost him half the season. And, he's facing another rehab. So hope he's back for at least part of training camp next year. He's a great kid. Caught a touchdown, which is cool to see. And, we wish him the best.
Yeah. All right. So what did you have?
I just want to give a little shout out to Zach Ertz, who caught 7 for 84 today and finishes the season with another 70 catch, 750 yard season split between two teams. And, obviously 17 games, but I believe he's something like the fourth tight end with 6 career seasons with 75 catches for 700 yards, something like that. I think that's or 70 for 750. Really, just he's 31 and he's put together a really, really stellar career. He's 9th all time among tight ends and catches. Really nice bounce back season for him. After last year, it was a nightmare. And it was his worst season by far. I mean, by like 30 catches since he became a regular starter. So I think that the trade really helped Goddard kind of take ownership of being the number 1 tight end. It really helped Zach get back to where he was, up through 2019, which is one of the better tight ends in the league. So happy for him. And I believe they'll play the Rams in the first round. So Rams are scuffling a little bit, but still in the playoffs.
Yeah. And one more, if we're giving shout outs, I wanted to shout out the Eagles fans who were at the game on Saturday night. It was a game where they were losing pretty bad. It was cold. It was gross. A lot of fans stuck it out, and there were some good Dallas sucks chants pretty deep into that game. I was impressed by I'll be honest. If I was outside halftime, I'm gone. It was cold.
It was cold. I was out there for about 2.5 hours doing pregame, and I did not warm up the rest of the day.
Yeah, me either.
It was one of those colds that gets into your bones, and like you could be wrapped in blankets and have the heat on 85, and you're still cold. And so definitely kudos to them. I think you'll see. I don't know how tough it's going to be to get tickets down there, but Eagles fans will find a way. They will find their way to Tampa.
There'll be some there.
I hope or by crook, and they'll all be on your flight.
Probably. I got to make sure I get a seat on my flight, by the way. I got to take care of that right now. But if you enjoy the Eagle Eye podcast, please do us a favor, rate and subscribe wherever you get your pods. If you're watching on YouTube, please click the like button and subscribe there as well. We'll be back with you guys later in the week. We'll break down this game from every angle we can think of. This has been Eagle Eye presented by Nissan. For Reuben, Dave. We'll talk to you soon.